Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We're going to start in about a minute. We're just going to give some folks a little more time to hop in here, so please stay with us, and thanks for joining. Welcome, everyone, to our webinar today, 10 Questions Maximizing Marketing Impact in Unpredictable Conditions. I'm Kristen Hamilton. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Marketing Evolution, and I'm going to be your moderator today. I want to welcome Marketing Evolution clients, partners, and agencies, as well as prospective clients, brands, and agencies. Everybody's joining us today. We're going to have a full house and a lot of content to get through. I hope everyone is safe, healthy, and as sane as can be expected given the circumstances. Just a little bit of housekeeping and then we'll jump right in. All of your lines have been muted, so if you'd like to ask a question beyond the 10 questions we're going to go through today, please type it into the questions box on your attendee panel. Like all of you, we too are working from home, so we're going to hope that our dogs and children and delivery folks are kept at bay for this precious hour, but we can't guarantee anything. I'd like to share a little bit about our speakers today. We have a handful of great speakers, a number of leaders from Marketing Evolution. We have John Matthews, President and Head of Customer Success. We also have Natasha Householder, our Training and Documentation Lead. And finally, Dr. Michael Cohn, our Chief Data and Technology Officer. Once upon a time, we actually wanted to do a webinar on the top 10 questions that we got from our customers. And we thought that would be a way to share best practices with both our customers as well as prospective customers and our partners. But as you all know, a global health crisis kind of changed things and changed our plans, much like many of your current marketing and media plans are being impacted today. So what we've done for you today is we pivoted, and we're going to cover 10 questions as promised, but we're going to include some very specific ones that we've been getting right now related to the COVID-19 crisis. Just some introduction, it's a very different time. These are some great statistics, not good statistics in the terms of positive ones, but just informative from the report that the IAB recently put out on buy-side decision makers. And as you can see here, 24% of respondents have paused their media for the rest of Q1 and Q2. Others are adjusting. They're adjusting messaging and increasing cause-related marketing. And folks are just undecided on what to do. And so those are some of the things that we're going to probe today as part of this webinar. What we're suggesting and what we're suggesting to clients or anybody who asks is that it's important not to lose sight of the fact that consumers are still purchasing and they're still consuming media. They're just doing it differently. Our guidance at this time is to use this period of time to focus on data and insights, or if you're already doing that, to really step it up. Data is your friend right now, and it's really a great opportunity to make measurement and insights and data part of your marketing organization's DNA. Some specific guidance that Marketing Evolution is providing to our customers is to avoid going dark, because we all know what the data has shown over the past 100 years is that when brands shut down all of their advertising during a crisis, it can take on average 5 years to recover. We're also suggesting to use scenario planning capabilities to help you adapt and adjust your marketing and media. And finally, use this as an opportunity to have your marketing really shine in their ability to respond and to use this crisis as a way to test new approaches. So that's very high level, but now we're going to get into specifics. We have a lot to get through. I'm going to try to watch the clock here to make sure we get through it all. So why don't we jump right in? We're going to go to our first question, which I actually have some related questions. Let me go through it here. So the question we got is, are the insights I'm going to get today applicable because they're based on past history, which isn't relevant given the changes in consumer behavior due to COVID? And then a related question we got along with that, or the next one we got right after that is, so should I bother measuring? So I'm going to hand this one off to Dr. Cohen. Dr. Cohen?
Yep. The answer is, of course. It's a different measurement perspective, right? We're past the time of expanded economic expansion and the use of long histories of data to measure the impact of marketing are less effective at understanding what's happening in a new world, a new economic order. So, having a solution that is smart about what it needs to forget, the aspects of the market that are not relevant, but there are things that are still relevant. I still, the COVID crisis hasn't changed my taste or preference for beer, for example. That hasn't gone away. And so there's lots of tastes and preferences that persist in consumers. And then there's other things that are less relevant or have adjusted due to income constraints or, how people are moving through the marketplace, be it virtual or in the brick and mortar world. So, learning and updating framework is crucial for that. A solution that doesn't respond quickly and is nimble and does so rapidly really is antiquated sort of solution for the rapidly changing ecosystem that we're operating in. So as you move into the new world, there's, adaptiveness and placement, creative messaging. We see a lot of marketers out there testing and trying that, having that quick measurement feedback to sharpen that. And whether your media spends are historic levels or they've been brought down, there's always an opportunity to exploit that information and how you move forward.
Great. So, I think the kind of high level summary, right? Don't turn things off. You should be measuring, but make sure that you're using a framework that's using the relevant historical information. Okay. This one, we probably should have started with this one, and it's actually, I have to be honest, there's like 4 or 5 questions related around this, around money. So right here what we have is, so how do I convince my CFO, internal stakeholders to keep media turned on? But a handful of other kind of related questions that we've got, that we've been responding to is, should I turn off all the media spend? Or if I have to cut my budget, which products and or tactics do I allocate the spend to? The other one, this one was the big one, and we've got this across industries. What, if anything, do I do with media spend previously allocated for sports? And then again, this is, if I cut back, is there anything to measure? So Dr. Cohen, that's a handful, but it's all related to, what do I do? How do I keep things turned on? How do I prove that things are working? How do I make the best of this situation?
Yeah, and of course, such an important question requires a nuanced answer. Yes, keep things turned on, but cycle them differently, move them around. As we think about the early indicators that we could be monitoring now and how media influences those things like brand consideration, platform engagement, like website visits. What will happen to people as governors begin to relax social distancing regulations and they come out of the house, but in different ways by monitoring their location. We'll track how media efforts are affecting those early on and find places where savings can be realized for, say sales cycles that might be extended or pent up demand that might exist, like say in the case of automobiles, or a completely different demand cycle that's occurred due to a big, say, sign up, if we're looking at telecom or entertainment. video on demand sort of entertainment, that stuff just hit a big spike, and revenue goals have been blasted through the roof for the year. You know, we heard Reed Hastings talk about that the other day. So how does that mean, you know, how do you smooth things out beyond this? You know, how do you prevent attrition of customers? And so of course you should have media. It's how you spend it, where you spend it, and what sort of indicators you're going to use at which times to do that, and then bring those together in a multiple objective way. So using multi KPI sort of optimization to do that. And then in cases where you know, more specific goals are being set, say to manage the volatility in revenue against the cost of continuing in the business, that's the sort of mindset that finance will bring to the table. You know, a goal seek sort of capability that allows you to look for where cost savings are possible given more realistic or tempered expectations about Q2 and Q3 sales. It's a much better tool than, say, you know, maximizing KPI in a budget. It's just what we call the dual problem. So that's
right.
recommendation.
Okay. Super helpful, and I think really tactical too. Tactical in the sense of it's something you can do right now. Okay. Let's see. Let's hop to our next one, and this is one I myself, as a marketer, although on the B2B side, had to think about. But for all the brands out there, we typically only measure against the sales KPI. Are there additional different KPIs that I should be measuring against during this crisis, Dr. Cohen?
Most certainly. I mean, I mentioned the notion of tracking to brand metrics, or determining which early indicators collected either through survey or other brand trackers would be useful in understanding the effectiveness of the messaging, creative, and media pressure that we have now, and as we go through social distance relaxation. Then these would include everything from you know, awareness and consideration to other attitudes, whether they're COVID specific attitudes that relate to the sort of products and services we provide, or just, you know, the effectiveness of certain corporate social responsibility initiatives in terms of how people feel about a brand can be very important, as Kristen alluded to, in maintaining the brand presence in the marketplace. So absolutely, those are important. Less tangible indicators, but there's also tangible indicators like you know, web visits or location-based information that are early indicators. That might be something we talk about in more depth momentarily, but
right, and the app usage too, which could be an interesting one for those that have it.
yes.
Right. Okay, great. So in addition to sales, right, other kind of, I don't want to call them leading indicators, but there are other things that for consideration. Okay. And by the way, I should mention, we are going to provide a replay of the webinar after the fact, so you'll have all this detail. And we made a point of putting a lot of detail in the slides. So I know we broke a lot of PowerPoint rules, but we really wanted to make this useful to all of you after the fact in terms of being able to consume the content and share it with your teams. Here's another good one, and it's kind of 2 or 3 related ones that we got. And it applies across a variety of industries. So let's see, my business heavily relies on foot traffic, and now that storefronts are shut down or locations, what should I be measuring now to anticipate new patterns in the future? And then the related one was, so the COVID pandemic has shut down foot traffic in overlapping stages depending where in the US you are. How can I account for changes in other areas of my business to anticipate new consumer behavior and foot traffic? I know this is on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, I mean, just to build on the comment you made about app usage, think about, you know, financial sort of services or banks, and a huge opportunity here to fundamentally change the product and service that's being provided in a way that's safe, in a way that reduces transaction costs. There are opportunities across the board where, you know, the product and service offering needs to change, whether you're a major advertiser that has theme parks and entertainment, there's the shift in terms of where people are spending their money is happening rapidly. So, having that information about where people are, having information about, their engagements with your platform, like web visits and app usage, and then aligning that with whatever new business models or larger business strategies might emerge as a result of where the market opportunity is. And then even pairing that with other aspects of the marketing mix, like pricing decisions. Say, for example, you have an assortment of beverages or something like that, and beers, and people used to go for microbrews, and now that they're going more for the traditional mainstay blue collar sort of stuff, then that has implications for how you might want to change your promotional activities around that, especially with the new channels that people are getting the product delivered, just as an offhand example. So it's really about aligning new marketing strategies with new business strategies and using some of these early indicators to do that and get serious about the role that measurement plays in doing so.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna one more to you, Michael, and then we'll give you a rest here. So this is around different channels and things and tactics, and there's a few related ones here. So the main one is, I have never spent media budget on, let's say, X. In this case, the client was asking connected TV. Should I try that now? And then sort of the specific related types of questions we've gotten was, should I be considering Twitch or TikTok, given that more people are at home and using online media? So I'll hand that to you, Dr. Cohn. What do you think?
Well, you've presented us with our favorite test and learn sort of mindset for data-driven decision making here, right? And this is squarely what applies, especially for those of you that are evolving in your own way of looking at measurement. Coming out of a time where measurement was used to fortify decisions, where there was good certainty and stability and the contribution of those efforts and those investments. With that rapidly changing, it means that you have to adapt this framework where things are volatile. You're learning things at certain degrees of certainty, and you're constantly updating those because they're constantly evolving those. So just as a reminder of what this framework is a closed loop around the collection and validation of data, making sure that data quality is in place is essential to getting good insights and activation. Updating the intelligence that we get from transforming that data with impact science, validating those measurements and activating them, right? We have a measurement, is that truly what's out there? What sort of things we can do? We can actually do in-field experimentation, or we can do non-experimental sort of in-field experimentation, the informal sense, trying things on a smaller basis and then scaling them up as they prove out, and then evaluating the whole set of recommendations in the actual program itself. It's now as good a time as any to understand what the return on investment is of your measurement and activation program, especially as you are varying degrees of media pressure and the tactical mix and messaging rapidly. There's lots of really nice variation that we can learn from that is really a natural experiment in the current marketplace, and an exciting opportunity to sharpen the precision of measurement. This, of course, requires an organization around it that's oriented in the right way, that the right measurement stakeholders are being enabled by, the data collectors, the agencies, the finance oversight, all of those pieces. I think we've talked about in other webinars that Kristen could refer you to, but that's the mindset to adopt here.
And Michael did do, just for the audience out there, Dr. Cohn did do a great test and learn webinar with MSI that we can also point you to if you want more details on that. Okay, let's keep moving here. So John Matthews, we're going to ask you a few questions here. So okay. John, the question we got, which is really a lot of the focus of our webinar today, is around best practices. So the question was, how can multiple internal and external stakeholders align and coordinate for faster decision and action? And so what are some of those best practices?
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. You know, the current environment has put decisioning speed into a clear focus for everybody, I think. It's always been our counsel to our customers, our prospects who are considering measurement, that they need to think about what they're going to do with these answers, right, and how they're going to act on them to yield money from the investment that they put in getting these answers. So, you know, the first point that we have here is that it's really a motivation point. That every time in every business consideration, even under business as usual, is one of testing the system all the time to push the envelope and make the decision as fast as we can. Or as we say here in this bullet item, this first one, is that these sort of extreme times prove out that, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. Some of our customers that we've been working with have taken, one head of marketing, for instance, was relating to me the other day, that their organization has taken down their decision-making steps from a count of low teens to now single digits, and getting that speed because these times require it. And I think that motivation should be there all the time. And just like we're learning ourselves by breaking through and doing things like working at home and challenging old models, I think that one small silver lining from what's going on is that motivation. One of the things that happens either in extreme times or not so extreme times is to ensure that you have decisioning played out before the decisionings need to happen. When we work with our customers, frankly, we require our customers and ourselves to develop a map of decisioning of how we're going to set in motion off of many of the things that Michael was talking about, putting the answers in place and activated in market. We follow, and I'd recommend some sort of construct. Ours is the well-known RACI construct of who's responsible for a decision. They know it. Who's accountable for the decision, who's consulted, and who's informed. But for whatever construct works for you, you need to have one played out beforehand. And now is the time to continue to do that and hone that decisioning. And then finally, structure. Different customers that we work with, different people who are considering a measurement solution, and prospective customers out there listening to me, know that there are many stakeholders to manage and bring together, from multiple agencies to multiple stakeholders and functions within a business, everything from finance to multiple marketing functions. You know, we've seen that one way to get this done, to integrate the stakeholders, is to really have integration teams that are somewhat fluid. One customer we work with has an agency integration team, for instance, that meets weekly and monthly. So again, motivation, process, and structure, and is true all the time. It's especially true now.
Okay, great. Okay, I know this is one that we get a question, that we get all the time, but I think it's valuable now more than ever in terms of how we advise on this, which is how can we consistently and rapidly evaluate the value and performance of our in-market actions?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I know it's our reason. I know it's our reason d'etre, but I think it's still very revealing in terms of both the question and then the guidance that we give.
Exactly, Kristen. Yeah, right back at you. This question was one of those that, without COVID-19 or with what have made this list, the reason that large brands, marketers want to be able to put in place a closed loop measurement system that can be agile and fluid is to make more money. We think of it as proving the value of marketing and touch point management and media specifically, which is the sort of top row there of measurement, and improving, which is optimizing and acting. You do the first row so you can get the second done and make money, right? So the first row, across the board, pretty tried and true return on ad spend logic that we would urge every customer to think about and put in place in concert with finance, right, in their own organizations to be tracking the ROI of their marketing programs. That includes contribution of sales overall, the profit from that coming out of it, and the return on that media spend. And then finally, you take that ratio and it's hopefully over 1, right, and has a good return for your finance counterparts to be looking at closely as well and comparing to other alternative investments in the organization. This kind of logic of row 1 puts marketing and marketing investment on an equal footing with every other investment, whether it's an MSO putting fiber optics in the ground, or whether or not it's other brands doing store displays versus media, or whatever other decisions. The key, though, is really, versus where marketing measurement has been, of where we are and where it's going, is really optimizing on what is known from market response and acting on it. So same logic across the board, right? Is you can either optimize and get better results with the same dollars, or keep ROI where it's at, so to speak, and put more investment in. And doing that is the same logic of the upside seen and the margin generated and the ROI on the program costs of measurement and optimization. And this is what a CFO would want when you're thinking about any of these pivot moves that we've been talking about in questions 1 through 5, that many large decisions are happening now from, as we've covered, do I dial down media? Do I dial it up? Do I change my messaging? Do I not? It needs a feedback loop to evaluate in this way of incremental gains on the optimization itself. And then finally, and last but not least, all the way on the bottom right side of this page, is realized. You can't make money without doing something and acting on it. And so it's one thing to say, well, we're proving ourselves. It's another thing to say to finance or the CEO or others in the organization, we're constantly improving ourselves. And right now is a test period for that. It's a time to not run away from it, but to run towards financially driven marketing.
Great, thanks. And the next one is a little bit of a follow-on to that, where it's about not just proving but improving. So let me just run through this here. We are often called upon by internal business operations and finance to demonstrate marketing's value to the business. Oh, yeah, I've never gotten that question as a CMO. Nope. Okay, just kidding. How do your best customers take the insights generated by your platform and move from just improving the value, from proving to improving the value of marketing activities? I'm going to leave that one to you, John.
Well, I mean, yes, Kristen, we have been in those conversations together,
yes,
right?
We have.
So exactly, and so physician heal thyself, right? But I think so. It's really about a consistent and stable platform of data, of knowing how market response is generated, and finally getting insights from that, decisioning off of that. We really think of this as a stable flow and a platform that is a technology platform and stood up. It's also a honing in on the data to find patterns. We're using here a picture of an elephant, to come alive. But really, when you look at what we counsel our customers to do, it's really to think about this proving and improving really through a system that itself is stable in data but can adapt. And what that means is the first stage is really data intake and cataloging. And what Marketing Evolution does for a living really is consistent data intake in a way that can be then stood up to make it representative of a customer's business and normalize that business. So in that intake mode, it's a constant flow of, is the data there and complete? Is it logically consistent? And is it representative of our customer's business? So when you stand up a measurement system, that's what you're going to be challenged to do and what we do for you. Representative in your targets and your customers and the mix, which differs for each brand. Representative on media impressions and the media that you're using and the consumption of that media across those targets and people. And then finally, and the most important one, representative of your sales mix. And if those things aren't established, the system can't be stood up. And then put through a system that gets proper marketing response, marginally decreasing market response. In our world, that's really, we've moved to machine learning so we can do it at speed. But all of that is really towards answering the questions of prove and then improve that we were talking about before that can link with the finances. So it's really about the scenarios that Michael was talking about that we can do off of such a great data system and the what ifs in these kind of times to do the ROI evaluation that I was speaking of a chart or two ago, and then linking it with a test and learn system that we're in the process of productizing around calling it learning in the market and then earning, back to that ROI evaluation. So the key point here, elephant aside, is that you're really standing up a technology platform that is consistent but broad and able to answer these questions.
Great. Okay, we have two more questions to go, but I just want to pause for a second and just remind folks who might have joined us a little bit late, if you want to ask a question, a different question, or if you want us to elaborate on any of the ones that we've already been talking about here, on your panel, your attendee panel, there's a question box, and you could just type in your question there, and we'll try to get to them at the end, okay? So let's keep going here. We're actually doing okay for time, covering a lot of content quickly here. So last question for you, John, question number 9. How does Marketing Evolution engage to help customers with flexibility, speed, and decisioning in response to changing business environments? And obviously very apropos right now.
Yeah, so these times have pushed not merely marketers and brands, but Marketing Evolution as well. I'm proud of the system that we've set up, and it's being tested right now because you see some of the questions that have come to us over the past weeks. They require a very flexible system. They also require a set of roles in our organization docking with in a very speedy way with the roles in customer organizations. And we've seen that change over time. In past cycles and past years, you would see measurement companies like ourselves interact with marketers at the account management level. But there are many roles inside of marketing that need to have a fast reaction time and integrate, as we were saying before, as stakeholders to get us to the system. We've really, you can expect of us in these times to be wrapped up in our arms, so to speak, if I can say that, between account managers who are there in that last stage, using that platform with you in a way that manages the services and brings you the best insights and decisioning. right? So those are our account managers, both strategic and technical. But there's others too. There's a burgeoning role inside of the marketing groups that we work with of analytics specialists, of data scientists sometimes themselves inside of these organizations that need to dock with our research and analytics people who have become more and more a customer-facing function in our organization to your organizations to get the job done on making sure the right analytic framework is in place and understood. And that data set that's representative of your business is there. And then finally, last but not least, is the issue of data integrity and big data integration, where we're taking many different, frankly, heterogeneous data sources and making them homogeneous in a normalized way, as I said in the last slide or two. That takes an our end implementation and systems people to work with the people on the customer side who are responsible for that data and the many different sources. So this framework that we have of account management, system support, and research and analytics up against our customers' analytics, data, and marketing groups, and of course, the finance groups that are related to those marketing groups, as one that works well for us and one that you should sort of demand of yourselves and any measurement work that you do.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. Okay. Oop. All right. Last question I'm going to put to you, Natasha. How does Marketing Evolution support customers in advancing their knowledge of the software, its new features, and how to apply insights to improve revenue and profitability? Natasha, your thoughts here.
Thanks for the question, Kristen. We train to enable our customers and their agencies, teams, to leverage the insights that are generated through our platform, to how to activate on those insights, and then leading back to the validation and continuation of the test and learn experimentation cycle that Dr. Cohen shared earlier. And we do this as a joint effort between our training teams and our account teams, who are the best users of the software, with support from research and analytics, as John just pointed out, our product teams, and others within the organization. And we're providing training support throughout the course of our relationship with the customers. Initially, we provide training during the implementation phase using demonstration data. This enables our customers to get an early jump on understanding the functionality and the application of the software. We include scenario planning, as Dr. Cohen mentioned, the what ifs, using many of the different levers within the platform to help drive insights. We do this through individual and team exercises, and we again, once the customer data is running live and flowing through the system, we come back and we reapply and advance the learning that was delivered during the demo phase, the demo training phase, and we then go deeper to help the users understand what the insights are generated now from the customer data. So, for example, what are the specific customer geographies, demographics, the KPIs that we're working towards, and how to use the different tools within the platform, such as GoalSeek and budget variables that can be used to advance both long-term and short-term activation. John referenced RACI earlier, and we also use this tool to support the training efforts. We really encourage those who are responsible and accountable, the R and the A within the RACI, those that are responsible and accountable for in-market media planning and activation, to attend these trainings. So those are what we might term your core users, but also for those who are approvers and organizational leaders, those that are consulted and informed, so that they, of course, understand what the tool enables from their teams to drive insights and activation from the capabilities overall. We also encourage the inclusion of extended team members such as buyers who are doing the activation, and the creative team members who are actually building and developing the advertising so that they too can leverage the insights generated by the platform. So buyers have a great application in getting into understanding what the cost per conversion may be and how they can look across the different providers to negotiate a better pricing, for example. It's very much a direct response model in thinking, and how the creatives can look at insights by message and creative strategy. So this is what John also cited, a nice application of the integrated team meetings where the buyers, the planners, creative people, the customers can get together to continue to develop test and learn hypotheses and actually run it through the scenario planner to see what makes sense from a business perspective and an in-market perspective to actually go and activate on. So it's a great ideation tool as well. We're continuing the cycle of refining and improving ROI through the platform. So this is a way to help drive the understanding of in-market performance and what we can do to predict what that outcome could be. We also conduct the training in many different modal ways, especially important at this unusual time. So we provide web-based training. We will be, again, providing in-person training once we pass through this very dark corridor. And we always have training available via our learning management system. So it's an always-on system that customers can and their teams can avail themselves on. For the in-person and web-based training, we really like to make it fun and competitive to really ingrain the concepts and the facility of the tool, facility and utility, using a really nice testing and polling system as well. So we like to create a little bit of competition to help drive that forward. It reinforces the application of the software and the insights that it can provide. So in summary, really, Kristen, our goal is to support user enablement, customer profitability, and an environment of ongoing testing, learning, and validation to move from a test and learn to really helping our customers test and earn greater profitability on their ROI.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, no, and I know, Natasha, you know, because the training, the online training sits off our website, and I see a lot of the statistics. You know, my folks who work on that had pointed out how much they had seen an increase in the interest on the online learning, which makes sense at this time. So, okay, great. And so what I would like to do now is just a quick summary, and then we do have a few questions we can get to. So just two quick slides that we put together here. Just a summary of our guidance and then some really practical tips, because I think we all need a little bit of practical right now. So first, you know, use the marketing performance solution with the learning and forgetting framework that as Dr. Cohn described. So it provides you with the data and the insights that you can rely on to adjust your media plans. You know, use the scenario planner to determine how to adjust for the changes, how to make those adjustments to your budget, to your tactics, you know, timing, creative, messaging, levers. Excuse me, Dr. Cohn talked about adding both behavioral, digital KPIs as well as brand health KPIs to use as leading indicators when a sales KPI right now might not be either the most ideal or solely valuable. Add location as a KPI, you know, track that foot traffic daily or if not weekly, both nationally and locally, to account for the different regional responses to COVID. And then finally, I think a theme that you heard throughout, which we actually kind of, talk about all the time, but I think now more than ever in this time, use test and learn to experiment. Use this time to try different things and to learn. And then just some practical tips right now to make it all happen. You've also heard a lot about this around the organization, which is, stakeholder alignment, to be able to move quickly with any plans or changes that you have. Make sure that you've aligned your stakeholders. Laser focus on that return on spend. Now more than ever, this matters with the background macroeconomic trends that we're seeing. Moving to in-market action and closing the loop. Don't just plan, but act, evaluate, and learn, and then rinse and repeat. Engage with us or your vendor on end-to-end speed and answer flow. And we talked a lot about that. Make sure you're working closely with that vendor and agencies to move quickly from insight to action to keep those plans current and thus effective. And then finally, as Natasha talked about, continuous and focused training. We all know how important the continuous training is, but right now might actually be a better time than usual to invest the time in training for both you and your team. So that concludes our 10 questions. I want to thank you for joining us. I hope that you found this information valuable. We do have some questions that people have submitted here that I'd like to get to. We'll try to take a few. I want to be sensitive on people's times here. Someone asked the question, hi, Kristen, will we be seeing what the platform looks today and how it uses the data to report and analyze the dashboard, et cetera? We actually typically don't like to show the platform as is on a webinar like this because it may be very different for you versus from another user. So we really like to understand your brand and your needs before we go ahead and just show a random demo, et cetera, but we're happy to follow up afterwards to show you. And then Michael Cohen, I think there's one here for you. Let's see. I haven't heard the term predictive. Would you consider yourself more of an evaluator of historic information and less of taking it to the predictive level? Michael, your thoughts?
It's definitely the predictive level, but predictive is also how you evaluate historical, right? How do you know when your kid comes home with a test and you ask for the score, they tell you 15. What's your next question out of how many? So what do you need to do? You need to predict what you did versus what you could have done to know how to evaluate things either historically or prospectively, and it's all predictive. So the prediction nuance here when it comes to data-driven decision making is about prediction about the impact of the actions that you as the marketer take versus simple forecasting or outcome. Those are different statistical problems. So the inference is about the stuff, the parameters on the media inputs more than it's about the conversion. And that is how you use a prediction to properly assess both historically and prospectively. The software is most certainly oriented towards prospective planning, and it also provides retrospective performance assessment as well as attribution and contribution accounting and reporting alongside media spend and other media reporting. So it's comprehensive in both respects.
Super helpful. And I think your example on the test score for some of us who don't have PhDs in data science, and I took my fair share of statistics, but so I think that's a great way to look at it. You got the 15 on the test, but so super helpful.
Just to drive that home, contribution and attribution is like saying you got 15 on the test. Using predictive scenario planning allows you to say how, what the potential was, right? What was the size of the opportunity or how many points were on the test? And then that's real performance assessment, not just saying, I caught 10 fish, but how many should you have caught when you went fishing for sales?
Okay, awesome. Super helpful. Okay, so another one for you, Michael, here. how do you explicitly control for COVID impact in the model?
Yeah. You explicitly control for COVID impact by having fresh models that are regularly updated. That means that COVID is having an impact on the way people respond to media and respond to tactics in those media. So getting a fresh read on that by having a freshly updated model is the most important way to do that. There's unobserved aspects of it, so as well, that are captured by the scientific sophistication of the model. Take, for example, aspects about unobserved features in the way people respond. You could observe something about people, say from Experian data, like their political affiliation, but the responsiveness of Republican in the Northeast to a particular message that was unobserved, to the analyst, but reported in the media, say something the president said or tweeted, might be differently responsive for Republican in the two different areas that might relate to how people respond to your product or how you message. Those sort of aspects are captured with the effects in the model. Now, one thing that's important is to not be fooled by the notion that you somehow put infection sort of data or spread data in your model as a way to control for it. That is an incorrect approach to this, and you can certainly put it in there as an additional factor, but it also has confounds with the sort of activity, the sales activity that you see. So it's not recommended where that sort of misplaced guidance is offered.
Yeah, and we could go probably hours on the model and the impact. This is again, kind of what we do for a living and what we help our clients with. So thank you. One last one, Michael. The question is, can you elaborate a little bit more about using brand health as a KPI?
So brand health is a stated metric, right? Fundamentally, think about surveying a consumer populace and asking them what their attitudes are on sliding scales, or as a matter of statements about intent or consideration, is how these things are collected through those normal practices, and then they're used as dependent variables in a response model. And because we have really great detail, so different from just using a brand tracker, having detail about how this varies across markets, say across DMAs or across geographic areas over time, and understanding how media is being differently consumed in those areas and all the other aspects that differ, is a really important differentiating feature of how we're using brand performance metrics to really connect the media's impact on those and understand, one, are they even relevant, and two, how does media affect them? Then how do those metrics connect to, say, down funnel or subsequent behaviors like web visits or ultimate, conversions as you move down the funnel over time, is also an extra dimension that Insight is provided for.
Great. Thanks, Michael. I think we're going to wrap it up here, give everyone about 5 minutes back in their life. I want to thank all of our contributors and presenters, Dr. Cohen, Natasha Householder, John Matthews, and all of you for joining us. I really do hope that all of you are staying safe and healthy, and I also hope we appreciate you joining us today. We know your time is valuable, and we hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, additional questions, please let us know. We will be following up shortly with a replay of the webinar. Thanks again, and everybody, please have a great rest of your day.